Yes, my people, how is it going? Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. And today we're going to be talking about how you can effectively build your running volume, your running frequency, your running intensity over time without burning out and without getting injured. I've made this mistake so many times, and I've failed to recognize where the issues lay. But after, plenty of experience getting it wrong, I'm finally starting to get it right and managing my running volume a whole lot better. Now, if you compete in high rocks or, you're running half marathons, you're running marathons, ultras, whatever it is in endurance, running is obviously very important. The more you run, the better you are going to become as a runner. But it's about being efficient with it. It's about being effective with it as well. So today I'm going to explain about how you can improve your running over time, how you can increase your volume safely, the importance of strength training around your running, the importance of fueling around your running. So that's all to come. So do stay tuned. And without any further ado, we're going to crack straight on with this. Before we get going, I'm going to have a little sip of me green tea. Very nice indeed. If you see me looking over here, it's because I've got my laptop. So just to make sure that I'm covering all the points, providing the most value as I possibly can. We're going to get stuck straight into it with how to progress the smart way, the strategy to use to make sure you're progressing in the best possible way, again, without injuring yourself and without burning out. I have a rule of thumb, which again, I can't take credit for. I forget where I learned it now, but being surrounded with very good runners and, doing a lot of research into this, I've picked up a little strategy for how to safely make sure you're improving over time. Now, I tend to recommend 3 runs per week to begin with. It's a nice way to, separate your runs across the week. You can have a couple of days of rest in between. That way you're not overloading yourself. And within those 3 runs, I recommend a nice and easy run, a slightly longer run, and a more intense run. So the easy run should be very easy. Recovery, say you're looking to run at the start of your journey, you've got a little bit of experience with running, hence why you're doing 3 runs per week and you're looking to run 20k per week. You might start with a really easy 5-kilometer run at the start of the week. Then, maybe that comes on a Tuesday or a Monday. On a Thursday, you go out there and you do a more intense session. So that might be intervals on the track. That might be a threshold run. That might total with a warm-up and a cool-down, again, about 5 kilometers, let's say. And then at the end of the week, maybe on a Saturday or a Sunday, you might do your long run, and that will total, let's say 8 to 10 kilometers per week. So just to give you an idea of the way I like to structure things, because it sets, some context for the rest of what I'm about to say. From there, you want to increase and improve and build in this way. Please listen to this. This is really important. The number one thing that you want to start building on is frequency. So once you're settled with 3 runs per week at 20 kilometers, then you might add in a 4th run. Okay, so don't be adding too much volume or too much intensity. I recommend frequency first. So you're better off running less on your runs, but running more than building volume excessively. So first you might add in a 4th run. Now I'd make that another easy run. So you might now start going Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, for example, or making that Monday run a nice and easy run after the long run, or you might give yourself an extra day and do that on the Tuesday. You can split that how you like. Make sure you're getting plenty of rest, but first things first, add an extra run in. You might only want to make that, you might take some distance off one run and add it to the next one, if that makes sense. So keeping it around that 20-kilometer mark. Once you've increased your frequency, then you want to look at increasing intensity. So on one of those easier days, you might push the pace a little bit more. You might start pushing the pace on your long run, doing some intervals in the long run. You might, take up the speed in your threshold session, for example. So first is frequency, then intensity, and only then do you want to look at starting to increase volume. So many people, including myself, have made this mistake so many times, will naturally see that they've run 20k in their first week and then go, boom, okay, the next progression is 30k. That is a recipe for disaster. That is a recipe for injury. Your body cannot handle that. I don't care how long you've been running. A 10-kilometer increase at the start of your running journey is catastrophic for progress. My rule of thumb, which again, I can't claim credit for, I've learned from others in the past, is to increase no more than 5% of volume per week. Some people say 10, I think it's too much. Personally, 5% is the sweet spot that I've found. So if you are running 20 kilometers per week, realistically, you don't want to be running any more than 21 the next week. There's no need to. This is a long game. Building your running volume takes years. You know, you need to change your thinking from days and weeks to months and years. It really is like that. That's just the way it is. Consistency will pay off, and slowly building volume, being cautious is the best way to go. So, you know, obviously the more volume that you add, the more volume that you add each week, if that makes sense. So once you start hitting, you know, an 80-kilometer week, if you're training for a marathon, all of a sudden, you know, your next run, rather than being 88 kilometers, it's 84 kilometers. So there's a 4-kilometer increase there as opposed to just the 1, if that makes sense. So back to the point, frequency first, add in an extra run, then intensity, then volume. Once you get to a point where, you know, your volume's increasing nicely, you might add in a 5th run, especially if you're training for marathons and these sorts of things. There's no real need to add 5 runs per week if you're only training for high rocks, because you can look at incorporating some running into your training sessions, but we won't get into the weeds on that too much in this video. That's to come for later videos. I would say 4 runs is more than enough for high rocks, even so for half marathons. So that is, you know, the running itself. Now I want to switch over and focus on strength training, because this is a massive difference maker. If you want to avoid injury, if you want to avoid burnout, if you want to keep things enjoyable when you're running, you have to strength train. And now I'm not just talking about getting in the gym, pumping some iron, getting your bench press, your shoulder press, beefing up your arms, bicep curls. I'm talking about leg days. I know that everybody hates leg days, me included. Nobody likes a killer leg day. It's brutal stuff. It's mentally challenging, but it pays off. Believe me, it pays off. Now, running is a unilateral sport, so you're only really using one leg or utilizing the strength and power of one leg at a time. So to emulate that in your training, in your strength training, train one leg at a time. Obviously, it's still important to have your compounds in there, so you don't want to go too heavy whilst you're running, especially as volume does increase. So try to avoid those, you know, lower rep, higher weight sort of work. But definitely, you know, look at compounds like your deadlifts, your back squats, your front squats. But I can't emphasize enough how important it is to train unilaterally. So one leg at a time, your lunges, your split squats, your single leg RDLs. Even if you're using the machines, you know, rather than doing a double leg extension, do a single leg extension, a single leg curl, because you're just training, you know, the muscle unilaterally on its own, which is the way that the muscles are worked and put under strain whilst you're running. So that is really important for strength training. On that, it's also important to keep nice and pliable, nice and flexible. So make sure you're warming up. Make sure you're having a little stretch after your runs. If you feel tight at certain points, make sure you're just having a little foam roll. It's going to help. Make sure you're using your massage gun if you've got one. Have a little stretch out. You know, there's plenty of videos online. I'll actually leave one down in the comment section below or the description below. That I'll leave a few links that I personally use, just YouTube guides for stretching, for foam rolling, these sorts of things. They really do help. So that is also important for making sure that as you do increase your intensity, frequency and volume, you're not getting injured, you're not burning out, you're keeping the whole process enjoyable, because at the end of the day, that's what running's there to be. Not everybody enjoys running. I'm going to have another sip of my tea. Not everybody enjoys running, I get that. But it makes it a whole lot more enjoyable if you're not running with a niggly knee or a dodgy hip. You know, it is there ultimately to, you know, be enjoyed as much as possible. You can't, for me personally, I love running, so you can't beat waking up nice and early in the morning, going for a run, the sun's coming up or the sun's shining. Obviously, it's not like that all the time, but there's nothing worse than having niggly injuries to compete with at the same time. So strength training will help. as will pliability, flexibility work, stretching, mobility, all that sort of stuff is really, really helpful. My final point for today, I want to talk about fueling. Now, this is obviously my area of expertise. Nutrition is where I specialize, so I couldn't make a video on starting your running journey and slowly building volume without mentioning nutrition. As your running volume is low, it's less important to really, get too caught in the weeds with nutrition. As it increases, it becomes more and more important. As intensity increases, as volume increases and frequency, it becomes more important to really dial in your nutrition and make sure that you're recovering efficiently. But at the start of your journey, a couple of points to make is that you might want to introduce more carbohydrates around your run, so beforehand and afterwards. Beforehand, we'll make sure that whilst you're running, you're properly fueled. So you're utilizing, what you've eaten to perform your best. This is especially important for your long runs and your interval sessions, because the more intense the session, the more you're going to be utilizing glucose as the primary fuel source. You might get away with it on your easier runs because there's probably more fat utilization as you're in the lower heart rate zones. Protein is another really important one, obviously. I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but I just want to emphasize this as much as I can. After your runs especially, so as soon as you finish, you want to be focusing on protein and carbohydrates. You can afford to steer clear of fats, even healthy fats after you've run, because you want to make sure that you're absorbing and, digesting and utilizing the carbs and the protein as much as you can after the run, and fats are only going to slow the digestive process. So just to make you aware of that, a little pointer, and again, it becomes more important the more you increase your volume. So just something to be aware of there. As I say, I don't want you to get too caught in the weeds when you're starting your running journey. If you have any questions on nutrition and, you want me to clear anything up in particular, I've got loads of videos coming. And if you want to check out my Instagram, I've got loads of information over there. I'll leave a link in the description once more on, actually fueling for things like half marathons and really intense training sessions. But I don't think it's wholly necessary for this video here. So if you do have any questions, anything specific that you want to know, please do ask in the comments below or drop me a DM and I'll be sure to reply to you and help you out with that. But as a final point I want to make on the nutrition is, as you increase volume, make sure you're matching it with your nutrition. I know it sounds obvious, but if you're putting out more intense efforts, if you're running further, you need the fuel. So don't undereat. I see so many people undereat, especially people who are on weight loss journeys and they're using... So just for some context, I work with people who, are looking to perhaps lose weight, just feel healthier, better about themselves, increase their energy. And I help them use endurance events and, things like a Hyrox, a half marathon, a marathon as the vehicle to really get there. Because I feel like it's more tangible. You feel better about yourself if you can use an event or a competition to get there. And what I see so many people do is they're looking to lose weight, but they're increasing their running volume and they fail to eat as much. And, yes, they're on a weight loss journey, but it actually has an opposing effect because the body goes into some sort of survival mode and it starts retaining fat and they hit weight loss plateaus and they don't know what's going on. Their runs and their performance isn't improving. So match your increases in volume with an increase in caloric intake. That is important to acknowledge as well. So that's the final point I wanted to make. Again, if you have any questions, please do let me know. Drop them in the comments, DM me over on Instagram, whatever it may be. If this helped you out, please make sure that you like, you comment, drop me some feedback and subscribe. I really, really do appreciate it. You don't know how much it helps me out. Just to see that you're engaging, that you like the content. And there's so much more content coming. As I say, I'm making 2 to 3 YouTube videos a week now. So there's so much value coming. If there's anything that you want to see me produce, again, drop it down in the comments below. It really does help me out. So I can provide as much value for you lot as possible. I should also point out that in the description down below, if you want to learn a little bit more about how I can help you, there is a link down there that takes you to, for full transparency, it's a funnel. So just to explain a little bit more about what I offer as a coach, just making you aware of it. There's no pressure to go down there and click it, but it's there now. So if you do, I'd appreciate it. And there's a link to jump on a call. So if you want to have a chat, that option is there as well. Only making you aware, no pressure to do that at all. But again, once more, please like, comment and subscribe. I really, really would appreciate it. I hope you all have a blessed day. Thank you so much for watching, and if you've got to this point in the video, shout out you, because I appreciate you big time. But other than that, I'll see you in the next one in a bit.